What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today is a sad one to make. I feel like since it entered the game, Merge Tactics is in the worst spot it's ever been. Player numbers are vastly down, especially on the top leaderboard. There's a ton of players who haven't played at all this season just due to the fact that there's no ranked placements, there's no rewards, no badges, no nothing. Absolutely no way for their or no reason or benefit to climb to the top of the leaderboard. The player base is down. The content has become stale. Once again, the meta is unchanging with Lung in the game right now. And overall, it is just a frustrating, draining game to play. And so I'm going to go into every single one of these details throughout the course of this video. But I'm concerned about the game. First and foremost, because there has been work put into the game from Supercell's part, and it hasn't boosted the amount of players playing the game. So we saw season 1 for 3 months. It was a long time that we played season 1, and player right at the beginning, everybody was playing it, everybody was trying it out, played a game or two maybe, and then we lost like a couple million players, and then some people played it a bit more, and then they fell off, and only about 240,000 players made it to Diamond in the first season. So that's a 240,000 committed player base. That's very small compared to the grand scheme of Clash Royale that has 20 million plus players. Maybe it was 40 million total, and 20 million played Merge Tactics just once, something like that. Regardless, there's tens of millions of players, and only 240,000 were committed enough to the game mode to take it to Diamond. And Diamond in season 1 lasted 3 months. It was very achievable. So alone, if you look at those stats, it is not a game mode worth pursuing compared to the other stuff that they could put their resources to. But they decided to go ahead and rejuvenate the game mode, give it a second shot, give us season 2 with Goblin Queen, and now we're in season 3 with Lung. I mean, technically it's kind of like season 2 part 1 and 2 because the troops haven't changed. But I feel like the player base has not increased, to match the effort put in by Supercell, and so that's concerning. We lost a lot of the committed player base. There are a lot of content creators who did not come back and create more content for season 2. People who were pumping out videos almost daily in season 1 have no interest in creating content for the game mode now. Maybe aren't even playing the game mode. And that's something that's not healthy for it. And I think that honestly, they created Merge Tactics without content creation in mind. I think that's a very true thing. I mean, it's not a game mode designed around content creation. There's not any customizability in the way you play. It's a very RNG based game mode. There aren't any friendly battles. There aren't any ways to set up your own matches. It's not lended itself to content creation. And I've put out a video a day for I started in July, so 4 months now, and I haven't missed a single day. And there have been times where I was scrounging, I was scraping the bottom of the barrel for content sometimes. And I will say that I'm back to that point again. I don't feel, and because this is my mindset, if I want to put out content, I want it to be something that is engaging, that is new and exciting for the player base, that might bring new ideas. And I haven't felt like there's been something like that for a week or two now. I mean, ever since Lung came out, Lung was the very first thing that was exciting. And there were a few new teams that you could play with him, but now none of those teams are good except for a few, and everybody's already played those and everybody knows those, and that's the meta, and it doesn't change. That's what's concerning me. And yes, they've rolled out, balance changes under the table here and there. I don't know why they're not more forward with them. I don't understand why they are secretly removing the stuns from Goblin Machine's rockets, and secretly nerfing Rangers, and secretly buffing, Witch and stuff like that. I don't know why they're doing anything secretly. They didn't, they haven't released an official discussion on Merge Tactics since it's been a while, maybe even since the launch of Lung. That may be the last time that they actually released an official patch note on anything. And that's been, 3 weeks now, I think, which is crazy. So that's something that concerns me, is that they are not being as open with the player base, and the player base numbers have fallen off dramatically, both at the high level and across the board. I have a great following, and my channel has continued to grow, but it's tapered off a lot in the last week or two, specifically the last 2 weeks after Lung came out. That was great, and then it's been very stagnant for the last 2 weeks, and I don't feel like there's any new players entering the Merge Tactics sphere. I think the only ones who are even playing the game or have interest in my content are OGs who grinded to diamond every season. I feel like those are the only people who really have an interest. Maybe they didn't get to diamond, but they're really passionate about playing the game mode. I feel like those are the only people who have really stuck around to the game and to my channel as a whole. And so there's a lot of uncertainty about the game mode in the future. Does level 16 update mean that they aren't really concerned? I mean, does that mean that it's a new phase for the game? A new phase of progression. They're bringing in, I believe, new cosmetics. I think that's what the big surprise. Of course, so I'm not a super creator in Supercell. I get no special information, so I know just as much as you guys do. Could that be skins for the game, like the Chinese version has? I don't know. Is there a new direction that they're taking the game where they're devoting all their manpower to that? And does Merge Tactics fall by the wayside? So that's my concern. Does November 24th roll around and no announcement, no anything, Merge Tactics just disappears? And then they come out a day or two later after they receive enough notes to deem that a statement is worth it. And they say, yes, we feel that there wasn't enough interest in Merge Tactics, so we removed it to free up space for our developers to move on to other projects that are more exciting. And I believe that that's reasonable for them to do. By that point, who knows how many of the original 240,000 committed players are even playing at that point? Are there even 100,000 players on the platform who are still committed to the game mode? And, grinding to diamond every season is not easy. I've done it 3 times now on 3 different accounts, or sorry, 3 times now on 2 accounts. So I've done it. Well, I guess I haven't done it on my first alt this season, just because I have no interest in it. So I've grinded diamond 5 times now. And it's not particularly fun. Everybody was hoping that after they heard all our feedback after the first season, frustrated that we got reset, and we understood that one because, there were people who bot farmed. We all need to go back down to 0. But the fact that we got reset to 0 again for season 2, part 2 for the Lung season, that was really, unexpected as well, because that's nothing like the rest of Clash Royale's game modes come out. And so they're not taking the high level focus on Merge Tactics seriously at all. It's just balances are the only things that they're working on. They're not working to improve the game mode as a whole. That's concerning to me. And, when you look at Clash Royale overall, where does the majority of its revenue come from? It comes from people who are committed to the game. It comes from people who are, not at the top of the player, not at the top of the ladder or anything, but people who are, competitive and want to get better and are spending money on in-game, progression so that they can get better cards, so that they can compete at a higher level. And so Clash Royale as a whole is focused on top players to both generate revenue, and content creators are focused on them because they're trying to get better at the game. There are several content creators who will put out content that appeals to all, but a lot of people, a lot of them will just make deck guides and stuff like that appeals to the players who are actively trying to get better, and not the big chunk of players that just play it casually. Merge Tactics is completely opposite. It's a game mode that's for casual players, no competitive side whatsoever, which is where, there's a lot of content to be made and a lot of monetization to be had in the game mode. And so without those two things, without content and monetization, a game mode that's completely being propped up by the devs at Supercell, who are trying to keep it relatively balanced. And remember, Merge Tactics has its own dedicated dev team. And so there's these group of employees out there whose sole job is just to keep Merge Tactics afloat, and maybe balances are the only things that they really deem worth it at this point. That's the reason that we haven't, seen friendly battles or ranked placements or ranked badges, because there's not a focus on content and a high level of gameplay. So that's concern number 1, is that they've lost too many players, and that there's not a lot of competitive features or things that lend to competitive nature in the game mode. Another concern is the pace of content. Pace of content / balances. So we've seen 2 new rulers since the game mode released, and it's been 4 months now. that means the meta has changed. Overall, the meta has changed twice. Season 1, it was everybody playing Empress and you go for Clan Avenger. Season 2, it's Goblins and you're going for the Goblins, Rangers, Throwers, or a mix of that. Season 4 or Season 3, it's Lung and you're going for either Throwers. I mean, basically just Throwers in any way, shape, or form you can get them at this point. The meta has changed twice, I guess, because it was originally, Spirit Empress. The meta has changed twice, and it's been 4 months. The pace of content and the pace of the meta changing has been so slow. The biggest thing that we've seen is the removal of Goblin Machine's rocket stuns. And, even a small thing like that is so, revolutionary to the game because it changed the entire way the game's played, because you have the full game revolving around a few cards. Goblin Machine was the GOAT for the entirety of Season 2 and most of this season as well until they nerfed him. And so you have a game mode that's so focused around a few cards. Season 1 was Bandit, Season 2 was Goblin Machine. Now it's like, Baby Dragon or Musketeer or Executioner or something like that. There's not a lot of variability in gameplay, which again makes it hard to create content and makes it hard to have a competitive scene because there's one dominant meta. You look at Clash Royale, look at CRL. CRL's kind of different. You got to look at it differently because those are high skill players who are playing decks specifically to counter opponents. So maybe not that, but look at Top Ladder. You got decks like, you got Royal Giant, you got Hog decks, you got Bait decks, you got 2.9 Loon, you got, Golem, you got tons of different, drill decks especially. You have a ton of different decks who hang around in the meta because you can build skill on those decks. In Merge Tactics, there's no way to build skill, especially now that Spirit Empress is removed, because Spirit Empress was the only reason skill was ever in the game in the first place. I say removed. That she's completely out of the meta. And there are people who still play her just because they do find that more enjoyable. And that's well and good and all. I've just been playing with Loon because I want to showcase the new ruler and the new content that brings. But there's very few ways to express skill, and without an expression of skill, you're not going to keep the interested player. So it just keeps going back to this: is that they're not doing anything to reward the committed players for playing their game mode. And reward content creators for creating content. And I keep bringing up content creators not because that's their main goal. There's out of the entire Clash Royale player base, there's a handful of Merge Tactics content creators. That's not their concern. But I'm saying this from my perspective as a content creator for Merge Tactics. This is my perspective of the game mode and what it means going forward. So that's another concern, is that, the balances are very few and far between. They're done under the table, which again, I don't understand. I don't know why they're releasing game-changing effects or nerfs or buffs like the Goblin Machine rockets without telling the player base. That's huge. That's something that completely changed the way the game was played and the way that you go for cards and the cards you go for. And so the reason that they would remove that completely out of the radar, baffles me. I don't know if they came back and dropped a statement. I check the news pretty frequently just to see if they've come out officially and released some things about Merge Tactics. But they're just not being very transparent about that, and they haven't been very transparent with the game mode as a whole going forward. So we were promised two new rulers. So go all the way back to the end of Season 1. We get this huge announcement from Supercell about Merge Tactics. We all thought, boom, the game mode's saved. They love the game mode. They're going to keep pouring into the game mode. They promised 2 new rulers, Goblin Queen to come out in October, Lung to come out in November, and the new cards, the 6 new cards. And that's all they promised. They promised 2 new rulers and new cards. They hinted at other things, like maybe Spirit Empress re-enters the game mode at some point. Maybe, in a different way to access her through a trophy road or something. Maybe they'll add new cards, like they said, Barry. Maybe back if he's entered back into the game mode, but those are maybes. Those aren't definitive things. They promised everything that we've seen so far come to bear. So at this point, when this season ends, when this merge season ends, that may very well be the end if they choose to take it away. And I think it lines up almost exactly to where the 24th, I should have checked this. Actually, I might just check it right now. Is the 24th exactly when the Merge Tactics season ends? Because if so, that new update might just be the phasing out of Merge Tactics. So Merge Tactics season ends in 12 days and 8 hours. So the 24th, is going to be the last day of this Merge Tactics season. Is that the reason that they chose to release the update on the 24th and not a week later? Like they, because the Merge Tactics season resets a week before every update. Is that the reason they chose to do it earlier so that they could take away Merge Tactics with that update? I don't know. Again, like I said, I'm not a super creator. I do not have any insight into what Supercell's doing. I am one of you guys. I try to keep it completely transparent. And so, there are things that I don't know, of course. They may have plans to completely overhaul the mode, but it's getting very, very stale. And I talked to a few other creators about this, and we all feel very similarly. And I'm worried for the player base who is all feeling the same way. I've talked to two of my very close friends. I don't think one of them has even played this season, and he went to Diamond the first 2 seasons, and another one has gotten, I think, to Diamond this season, but just has no more interest in playing after that. And it's a grind to get to Diamond. And it was a grind for me to get to Diamond because you're just playing Lung against 3 other Lungs going for throwers every time, and it's just a matter of who can get the throwers the fastest. I mean, I remember when Lung Converse came out, I was like, man, this guy's great because it's not focused on RNG, but when you got the same ruler for everyone and the same troops for everyone, it all circles back to RNG. So this is concerning. And I want to end the video by talking about, any ways that they can save it. Is there any hope for Merge Tactics as a game mode? And I think there is. Will it ever be what we hope and dream it will be? I don't think so. Would they ever take it to their own app? Would they ever, dedicate more than the small team they have onto it? I really don't think so. They're the other break-off games that they had, Clash Mini and a few others in the Supercell universe have never done well. It's kind of got to be an established game for a long period of time. And so that's the concern there. They really have learned, I think, over the years that, focusing on their big ticket games is going to be the best use of their time and resources. So focus on Clash Royale as a whole. And I mean, and the fact that they're bringing out level 16 and everything means that they're forward thinking. And I'm going to have a video about level 16 coming out in the next few days, and you guys can hear my opinion on that as a whole. But there's a passion for the normal game, from the Supercell team and from a lot of players and from a lot of content creators that is just not mirrored in Merge Tactics. As one of the first, if not the first specific Merge Tactics content creator on YouTube, I was very passionate about it. I loved the game mode. I loved playing it. I loved, everything about how it worked. I thought it was going to be super fun. I never started the channel with the idea that I'd be sitting here now as an established content creator with over 10,000 subscribers in 4 months. But it's gotten to the point where is this a good platform to continue building my channel on? And I really don't know. So there's a lot I want to talk about specifically in that realm. And if you want to hear more about that, then make sure you tune into tomorrow's video. I'll go into more detail about the channel, and what my thoughts are there and how we'll move forward. But overall, I love the game mode. I do not want to see it die, but it's dying. And as the thumbnail or title said, I think it's dead for all intents and purposes right now. Not to say they couldn't revive it. But as far as a game mode that is, taking hours, man hours, paid man hours from their team and generating nowhere near to that in revenue. I mean, look at it this way. I run a startup as my day job, and we are a smaller part of a bigger company, and the bigger company is funding this startup with a lot of money that they haven't seen a return on yet, with the hope that we're going to get big enough and continue to grow so that we can, pay off those funds and then continue to generate revenue for the business. And, we're starting to do that, and we're starting to see growth in our startup, and that's awesome. And Merge Tactics is exactly that. It's a small startup of another game mode that Supercell is devoting time and resources and money to, and they have not been able to generate nearly the revenue that they need to keep it successful. And I don't think the revenue model is great going forward. Cosmetics are well and good and all, but cosmetics can't pay for a development team unless it's a very, very small development team, and a lot of people are buying cosmetics, which I don't think is going to be the case. Maybe it's just one dude sitting over there in Norway who's just thinking through all these changes, and it may very well be, who knows. But there's a lack of man hours that's devoted there, and I don't think they're going to be able to see the returns that it takes for the game mode to continue to improve. So, let me know in the comments what your guys' thoughts are. I'm going to try to be interactive in these comments now, because this is, it's not a serious topic as much as a mobile game can be, but this is what my channel was built on. And so it is kind of serious for this channel. I'd love to talk to you guys about it. I'd love to hear from some of y'all who are still very passionate about the game modes. Let me know what your thoughts are there. If you're still playing it, a lot of the time, every day, let me know what you guys think. But I do appreciate y'all watching. We've made it a long way on this channel thanks to Merge Tactics, and I owe a lot to you guys, you passionate fans for Merch Tactics and for the channel. I thank you guys a lot for the love and support you shown me. So if you enjoyed this video, drop a like, subscribe to see more banger JCE content, whether it's Merch Tactics or not, and I will see you in the next one.